And we're back for episode 4, or chapter 20, The Foundling. Shorter episode this week, 33 minutes I believe, 33 minutes of total runtime, which roughly equated to about 25 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Directed by Carl Withers. I'm not sure how many he's directed before, but just a quick rundown, what was your thoughts on this episode?
I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it was a throwback to like the more original episodes from like season 1 and 2. There was a nice mix of lore and there was a nice mix of new action, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought, first of all, I thought focuses back on the Mandalorians with an S. So I thought that was cool. It looked visually very pleasing. Like, the set pieces were very good. Most of the action was very good. Some of it I thought was really actually, on the opposite side, some of it was awful. Seeing Grogu doing the flips over the little foundling at the start looked like a child with a stuffed teddy had, flipping it.
Yeah.
That was bad. Like, I know they want to do a lot of practical effects, but sometimes the practical effects are worse, and they make it look worse than like good CG.
Yeah.
And that was one of the times where I thought that this looks bad. Other than that, though, yeah, I thought it was a tight episode. There was a little story. It didn't progress the main story that much.
No.
However, it was good to get a sort of sense of the Mandalorians and their culture, ridiculous as it is, and a bit more about them and the way they treat the foundlings. So
yeah,
much better episode than last week's. I would say that for sure. Mainly because I think of the runtime and of the story, or the bottle episode story.
Well, that's one of the notes I have, was the pacing. Like, I thought it was a great mix of, the going back and looking at like kind of Grogu's origins almost, right the way through to with the foundlings, like the action. It was just pleasing. I felt that I got more money's worth out of that half an hour episode than I did with the last episode. Completely.
Yeah. Did you notice the surprise cameo from Jar Jar Binks actor Ahmed Best? He was playing the Jedi who got Grogu out of the Jedi Temple.
Way.
Yeah. So justice for Jar Jar.
Way.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I when he came on, it was like, I recognise his face. I just didn't understand where from. And it took me a few minutes, and I thought, is that him? And I had to look it up. But yeah.
See, that was annoying me, because
cool.
I had the same thing as you. I'm like looking at this going, why is this person familiar to me? And then now you've explained it to me, it makes so much sense. I think the problem was I was trying to remember, like, I was like going back to like the new trilogy of films and like Clone Wars and kind of thinking like that. Like, I was trying to work out who it was.
So I thought,
now that you said
cool. That was good. I mean, because, like a little history of Star Wars, what happened to him was pretty shameful. Whatever your thoughts on Jar Jar are, like whether or not you like the character, thought he was ridiculous, the treatment the actor got was kind of one of the first experiences I remember of proper, like, fan crazy internet bullying.
Oh yeah.
To the point where he's gone on and said he was close to suicide. Like, it's absolutely tragic. So to see him come back and to get some cool redemption, I thought was really cool. I thought that was a nice little nod back. I was actually thinking, like, this is the time where Jar Jar is around.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when Order 66 happened. Jar Jar is there.
Yeah.
He might even be on Coruscant. So it's a bit weird. Jar Jar is there, and he's playing someone else. So Anyway, I thought that was a cool little bit.
I'm glad you told me that, because that explained that.
So all in all, I think this is probably my favourite episode of the series, this season so far. Which isn't difficult because the last 3 have been kind of weak. This was a good episode. So it didn't necessarily drive the plot forward too much, but it gave some good backstory into Grogu, and gave some interesting insight into the Mandalorian. So I thought, that's a good episode. There was definitely some bits in it which it irritated me somewhat, and we'll go into that in breakdown. But I would say this is probably, if I'm rating out of 10, a 7.
Yeah.
If I think comparatively, the last episode was probably a 5. This is like a 7.
So it's a bit difficult, because if you base it on the past couple of episodes, then it goes quite highly. But then, if you think back to some of the other seasons, is it only high because of this season? Like, would it hold up against some of the others?
That's the thing you got to watch. I mean, it was a decent episode, but I think every episode of Series 1 was better than this. And the vast majority of the episodes in Season 2 were better than this. So it was good, but it's good in the sense that most of the episodes so far have been fairly lame. And this episode still has some of the criticisms I've had of the first 3 episodes as well. So let's just go into a bit of an episode breakdown. We'll take it apart bit by bit. What did you think of the? And so we basically start off back with the Mandalorians in the Mandalorian Coven, and do they live in this cave? Like, just all of them live in that cave? I mean, where are their homes? They're all just on the beach. Like, I was thinking, where do they live? Like, because they're just at that same beach where they literally just got attacked by a giant, crocodile turtle or whatever it was. Yeah. They're all still there, shooting into the river and training and whatnot. And it's like, it's cool. It looks cool, but you just sort of think, where do they sleep? Is this tiny wee cave where the foundry is? What?
My first thought of that when it started, my literal first thought was this felt like some kind of hillbilly barbecue party, because they're just like shooting into the water and just like being mental. And I'm like, what are they training? Doing? I actually initially thought they were attacking the lake.
I thought there was another thing coming out
again.
Yeah. I thought there was another thing coming out of the river, and they were shooting at it. Then I thought, no, they're literally just shooting into the water, and what is that trick training them, like, to shoot wildly into the middle of nowhere?
Well, yeah. Once I worked out it was training, and I was like, but what are you shooting at then? If you're not actually being attacked, and this is training, what are you shooting at? And the thing is, I know people are going to be like, oh, it's a TV show, all this kind of stuff. But when it's your opening scene, and I'm trying to gauge where I am in relation to just hopping into this episode, because it's not carried on really from the last episode. I mean, it kind of has, obviously, but not like it's not a direct continuation of the story. So yeah, when I'm starting the episode and I'm trying to find out where I am, like how I'm supposed to be feeling, what's going on, and then you're completely confused of, oh, they're attacking. Oh no, they're not attacking. They're training. Like, what are they training for? Like, what are they doing? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
It feels like the same sort of thing they did last week with the dogfighting. It's a scene that looked cool, but when you start to dig down into it even remotely, it becomes slightly absurd. Like, the training with where the people are like hand-to-hand combat and things like that, and doing like jetpack training. So just sort of going up and down, but it doesn't even seem like it doesn't even tell you what are they preparing for. This is just their thing. What they do is they train and then go live in the cave and then wake up in the morning, come back and train, and that's it. And then you get the bit where, you see Grogu, and he's the Mandalorian is basically trying to push him into becoming an apprentice, so he has to go through foundling training or whatever. And he puts him next to this guy, and I was thinking, what first of all, he said he's too young to wear a helmet. 'Cause the first thought came to my head actually when I saw Grogu was, if he's a Mandalorian now, doesn't he need to wear a helmet? And then they make up a line where he's too young to speak, so he can't say the creed, so he doesn't have to wear a helmet. I was like, okay, at least you've attempted to justify why. So it's a bit lame, but okay. And then they say, right, you go and fight this kid, who's like, to Grogu, an absolute giant. And even Grogu's like,
me?
What? So either I thought one of two things is going to happen. He's going to get his ass kicked, or Grogu's just going to use the Force and turn this kid into like Inside Out, and then you're going to use his Force and just go.
Yeah.
But then, but then you got the stupid flipping scene bit, which I was like, oh. I thought it was cool that he's getting shot with the paintballs, and like, okay, he's gonna do. I thought he was gonna stop the paintball with the Force.
That's it. That's the bit that got me about that whole scene. Was like, it was really long and drawn out, and the punchline, for lack of a better phrase, was him flipping over twice and then shooting the darts, which would look basically like paintballs, I presume, at the kid. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, two things. First of all, like, out of all the things that he could have done to prove that he was like, if you're going to go down the he's actually really badass, you could have forgone the flipping and done something cool like the last paintball or dart, like stopping it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
Force,
Yeah, it's like
you said.
Because he says
but then the second thing that annoyed
them.
me, I was going to say the second thing annoyed me as well. He went choo choo choo, and he shot 3 at the kid, and I was like, well, the kid didn't do that. The kid just like shot him once, and then he went score. And I thought it was like like in martial arts where you do rounds. I thought it was that kind of setup. Like they were doing a round, and then he won the point, and then it was a round, and then he won the point. I think in Taekwondo, you win a point, and then you set. I thought they were doing that, but no. He just turns around and goes pew pew pew, and he was like, you're the winner. And then the kid goes off in a sulk. So personally, Grogu, in my opinion, is personally responsible for that kid's next move. In my opinion, just saying.
Yeah. So why didn't I thought exactly the same? If he was out to shoot 3 at the same time and then win, why didn't the first kid just do it? Because it made no sense at all. Again, it's just one of these weird things. Where it's like, make it look cool, but it didn't make it look cool. Just give me more questions. And I was just thinking, he says, show them. It's okay. Show them what you could do. So I thought, he's going to show them the Force. And technically, I think he used the Force to flip backwards and forwards and backwards. But it's not like. It's like, okay, any of them can jump. They've got jetpacks. That's not impressive to them. Like, seeing someone use the Force, like stopping the dart. And again, the darts were the only things. Like, why did the kid choose darts as a weapon? Why didn't he choose spears? Like, we're going to give Grogu a toothpick? He chose the one weapon that Grogu could possibly win.
And there was one thing that really annoyed me about that as well. And then it was just because I was thinking, like, when he said, he's going to choose a weapon. And my thought was, well, of course, the whole thing about Grogu is he's smaller than everybody else. That's one of his disadvantages. And then the kid's like, darts. And I'm like, darts? Is he actually taking the piss slightly? Like, instead of like javelins, he's got darts. But then they pull out the cool wrist contraption to put on. But of course, what I find really interesting is they had one that was Grogu's size, and they had one that was obviously larger for the kid. I was like, how does that work?
Because they had one for him, and he says, like, just squeeze your fist to make it fire. It's like, but that thing's massive. It's up to his bicep.
Yeah.
So the whole thing just seemed really bizarre. Like, if you want to show Grogu as a badass, there are so many different and better ways to do it. Like, you could have done, like, because the next bit, which I thought was just ridiculous. First of all, I don't understand where they sleep, the Mandalorians, and I don't understand why they're still there. Why are they still there in the place where there was that fucking dinosaur that came and
That's exactly what my wife said. That's exactly what my wife said. She was like, "Why are they there still? Like, what is safe about living there? You know, if they go out for a water, they're going to get eaten." And then the next bit, I think you're going to talk about, you know, if you stray too far along the beach.
Well, this giant bat thing comes out of nowhere, and nobody sees it, even though It's like bigger than most of the ships that they've got, and it scoops up one of the foundlings. And I was thinking, oh my god, why would you live on this planet? They've not explained at any point why this planet is at all relevant to them. They're nomads, first of all, so because they don't have a home planet, so they should be able to go anywhere. And if I was attacked by, like, if I'm sitting in my home on the front garden and out comes a turtle dinosaur the size of my house and kills most of my family, the first thing I'm going to do is leave. Not wait until the next time and then a giant bat thing comes and swoops up. Because it also, I noticed, it's definitely not the first time the bat has come and swooped in and take them, because they talk about it a lot. Like, they talk about it quite a bit. It's like, oh, he does this, and if we shoot at it, he'll eat the foundling. It's like, so you know this thing has, like, is about.
This is a problem.
It makes the Mandalorians...
This is a problem that you're aware of, and you're not dealing with it in any way whatsoever.
So the whole episode, I've thought to myself two things. One, and it's my main criticism, like, for the whole series, it makes making the Mandalorians look like idiots, including Jin, and they're making Bo-Katan seem like the best thing ever, because they all chase after this thing in their jetpacks, knowing that their jetpacks have got a limited range and that they can't shoot it because it will kill the foundling. So what are they trying to do? Bo-Katan's the only one who gets in her ship and flies after the thing. The rest of them just run out of petrol. Like, and he says, oh, this is, again, the big guy has said, this happened before. It's like, so you knew it was going to fly too far away. It just made them look like idiots, and it made me think to myself, you guys are morons, and you kind of deserve this, like, to be honest. Why did no one get in a ship, and then they see Bo-Katan fly over with her ship, thinking, again, you don't need to make everyone else look like morons to make Bo-Katan seem intelligent. So,
it feels a bit shoehorned in, this, and I think it's from the last time we spoke, when I was like kind of like focusing on it this episode, because of course she goes away in the ship and she like finds out where the creature's living, and then comes back and basically makes the plan that they're going to fly halfway, well, pretty much most of the way there, land, and then they're going to climb up the big peak to get to the nest. And like, they were really shoehorning in, like, obviously she's in charge, and I'm like, but it's not about her. Like,
I don't see him doing anything.
I don't understand
really.
what her plot, like, what her, it's interesting. You don't see what he, like, the Mandalorian was up to, and this is the thing that I think you have to watch with Mandalorian, because for most casual people, all the characters look the same. I know there's slight differences, but unless you know who's who, to the casual observer who's watching this, they don't know who's who. They don't know the Mandalorian, where they are. They're just seeing her because she's in more obvious different armour to the rest of them. And I'm just like, well, hang on, is it about her now?
This is exactly what I was thinking.
If you gave her a quest, if you gave her an objective, and myself as the viewer could go, okay, they're trying to achieve this goal, then I can understand why I'm not focused on the Mandalorian as much. But I'm like, I don't know where to look sometimes. Am I following her? Are we going on her journey? Or are we still with the Mandalorian and he's just cool with her taking charge? And I'm getting quite confused at this bit.
Yeah, I mean, because I think if you've seen the Clone Wars animated series, Bo-Katan is a much more important character to you. Now, I've not seen the Clone Wars, so Bo-Katan to me is just someone I met in The Mandalorian Season 2, near the end. So I'm in no way connected to her as much as I am Jin. And at the moment, because there's been no episode that's really shown what the main plot of this series is, I still don't know where we're going to go. Like, I get it, obviously she's got this mythosaur thing, and we've got the Darksaber kind of in the background, but they never talk about the Darksaber, so that's a kind of a non-pointer at the moment. So I don't know where the series is going, so I don't know do I need to focus on her? Is she going to be gone in the next episode and we're going to be back to Jin, or is it going to be her now and Jin's going to be a side character? So it confuses me.
Well, the thing about Bo-Katan as well, because with Grogu, like later on in the episode, because he stayed at home when they've flown off on the ship to chase this creature, and he's with the armorer next to the forge, and there's some kind of cryptic mythical comment made that the truth will be revealed, or I can't remember the exact words, but you'll find what you're looking for, kind of usual kind of story, moving plot advancement. And then you mentioned a bit earlier about we see Grogu just after Order 66 is shot given. But then I was hoping with Bo-Katan they were kind of going to do, like, for instance, when they're sitting at the bottom and they've all split up for eating, which also I noticed that we learnt about that. But she
also makes Mandalorians really easy to kill.
Yeah. And then so we learned that she was definitely in charge, because she also got the honour of sitting next to the campfire because she was in charge. Was it the war party they called it? But I was hoping at that bit when she was by herself, like next to the fire, she was going to think about the past, and we were going to jump back to like maybe what she was doing at that time, like. And we were going to go into her past, because she said she is quite a fleshed out character in this universe already. If you have watched the Clone Wars, there's a load of stuff going on. So I thought maybe they were going to make it nod to it. Maybe not as long as Grogu's one, but maybe just like go back in time a little bit. And it was kind of going to be one of those episodes where they kind of tie up loose ends of the past. So, and then something else was going to happen at the end, but that never happened.
No.
And once you got to the end of the episode, it was basically, and I know this is going to cut through it very quickly, but yeah, basically they climb up to the top. You find out that one of the members, it's their son who's been taken, who rushes in and causes it to go pear-shaped. There's once again an aerial battle, and this was a bit that I think confused Rachel a little bit, because she was trying to work out who was who, because it was quick action, quick movement, and this is what I mentioned earlier about, if you don't know who's who, to the casual observer, they're like, see, because at one point she was like, oh, why is Mandalorian falling, out the sky after being in the mouth? I was like, no, that wasn't, and I had to kind of explain, almost stopping it every little bit, just it kind of going through it again to explain what had happened. But then they got to the back, and then it was like, oh, well done, you helped us, you're a good egg, and then that was it, kind of.
Yeah, that whole thing was
like, okay.
Ludicrous, because the kid was in the bat's mouth, like in its stomach, so the kid is dead, like he was swallowed and is dead, so he didn't survive that. Because
you've got to remember now, you've got to remember a night has passed.
Yes, like at least 2 nights, a night at least, but more likely 2 days has passed, and the kid was what? He just... It makes no sense. Again, it's another scene that looks cool, but it just doesn't add up at all. And then when the other guy flies into its mouth, I know they've got Beskar armor on, but the Beskar armor is only little plates of armor, right? So the teeth of that thing would have killed him, or chopped his legs off at least. So he was dead. But there's another scene to show all the other Mandalorians as kind of incompetent and useless, except for Bo-Katan. I know it's eventually the Mandalorian who... This is the only thing he does in the whole episode, is he kills the... Well, he doesn't kill the beast, but he manages to bring it down, and then you get your Jurassic World moment where the even bigger fish... it's sort of it's a callback to Qui-Gon Jinn's, like, there's always a bigger fish. So the bigger fish kills it, but he saves the boy, and he does something in this episode which is kind of heroic and kind of main character-esque. But at that point, to me, it was like too little, too late. Why didn't Bo-Katan just do it herself? But we get.
And I just want to jump in just very quickly off the back of that as well. Is I'm not going to be angry if they're making Bo-Katan like the main focus of the season. Just tell me. Give her a main character quest, and just all you have to do is maybe have 2 or 3 quick scenes that basically kind of explain that the Mandalorian is going to help Bo-Katan because of everything that she's done for him, or something, something like that. But stop making me think, well, what's Mandalorian doing? What are they up to next? What's Grogu doing now? Mm-hmm. Just get that over and done with, and then I can just relax and focus on it instead of trying to work out every 2 seconds. Well, what's going on now? What's the story? The main main story arc that's going over the multiple episodes.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and it's like if they tell me where the ranking is, or they kind of make it clear where the ranking is of, I mean, not in their hierarchy from a lore point of view, but from the TV point of view, where is their ranking? Who is the most important character in this show at the moment? And right now it appears to be Bo-Katan rather than Mando or even Grogu. And I'm okay with that as long as it's made obvious. But at the moment they're hedging their bets a little bit, and it's like, I don't get it. But we get a good flashback to Grogu's escape from the Jedi Temple halfway through the show. We've seen a little bit of that in the past, but we haven't seen who it was who saved him. But I noted that there was 4 Jedi there, and then the clone troopers, because they're clone troopers at that point rather than stormtroopers.
I had to explain this to Rachel as well. Because she was like, "Are they stormtroopers? Because they look different." And I was like, "No." And I got to explain everything. But yeah, the clone troopers came in, and I think you're going to say what I was thinking.
But yeah, basically, the clone troopers came in. There's 4 of them, and they instantly wiped out the Jedi. I know these are lower tier Jedi. They're not like Jedi Masters, but there's only 4 of them. And they get annihilated by these 3 or 4 clone troopers, and then they manage to get Grogu up an elevator. Yeah. They kill another Jedi, and then the clone troopers are 3 inches away from Grogu, shooting into an elevator, but they still miss him.
Yeah.
It's like, if you'd had 1 Jedi there who had been injured, and then he got killed by a few of the clone troopers, I'd get that. But there was 4, and I'm like, oh my god, why did they leave you guys behind in charge of the younglings when you guys can't even beat a few random clones? And you're not surprised at that point, because they'd barricaded the door, so they haven't caught them off guard. I mean, they've caught them off guard in a general sense, but they've had more than a few minutes to prepare for them coming in, and so they should have been able to wipe them out. It's just super inconsistent with they make the Jedi super inconsistent in this.
It's it's a bit like, with the Mandalorians. I get that the show's not about Jedis, so don't nerf the Jedis to make me think about the Mandalorians. I understand that the Jedis are the Jedis and the Mandalorians are the Mandalorians. I'm not that daft, And at that point as well, you're talking about a different time as well. It's not concurrent to the current plot. So why can't the Jedis be a bit more badass? Why can't you make it like there was hundreds of clone troopers, if not thousands, versus, because if you go back to things like the Clone Wars and that, I'm sure there's scenes where there's 4 Jedis taking on massive amounts of clone troopers and all that. I can't remember what, but there's things where you've had the Jedis taking on massive amounts of clone troopers and looking really badass when doing it, and then these guys were just kind of made out of butter, it seemed.
You get the contrast from end of last season, where obviously Luke Skywalker is a different kettle of fish, right? Even because Luke Skywalker's just got plot armor and he's the main character of Star Wars. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is the main character for all of Star Wars, so he's always going to be an absolute badass. I mean, they make him an asshole in the sequel trilogy, but whatever. So he comes in and he annihilates these. He takes apart these robot assassin droids like they're nothing. He cuts through them like they're not even there. And you're like, that is what a Jedi is. And then you flip it to this episode where you get 4 Jedi who again, they could have been young. They weren't younglings, but they could have been young, inexperienced. But they're experienced enough to have a lightsaber, to know how to use it, to know how to use the Force. But they get absolutely destroyed, purely to make it look more like a massacre. And I just thought, you're exactly right, don't nerf the Jedi to make the other people look more like worse. You could easily done that with, say, you had 3 already dead Jedi, and we don't know how they died. So they died somehow. And then you have one Jedi who's injured, and then he comes and he's trying to defend them for life, but he's injured, so he gets killed. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Done.
Obvious overrun, overrun Jedi is obvious, like we would get that.
That's the point of the clones, right? There are numbers. Yeah. They can send in wave after wave after wave, and eventually you will kill your target. Even if your target is essentially like a space wizard with a lightning sword, right?
Yeah.
You eventually will kill your target. But we don't see any of that. It's just they go in against 4 freshish looking Jedi, and Jedi get killed. And I thought, don't do that to the Jedi. In this, I know this episode is not about Jedi, but don't do that to the Jedi. Don't make them look stupid. But it gave us obviously Ahmed Best's character. But did it take out when you were doing? He was on the bike. Did the bike scene not look super cheesy to you? Like some of the scenes when you saw on the bike, that seemed like that looked like proper, like fan fiction.
Well, this was a problem I would always think with having a set like Coruscant, like having a chase scene, because I mean, you're flying in and around buildings, but other than that, there's not really a lot you can do. And then you went into a tunnel in a building or something, and then that scene where he's like crashing through the station, and the dropship gets taken out by the train or whatever it is, and I was just sitting there going like, how convenient was that? Like,
yeah.
And then it was the placed ship with the rebels there that were able to pick up. Are they the rebels in that point? I can't.
Well, no, that was I think that was like the Naboo.
That's it.
Like
sorry, not the rebels. The Naboo soldiers or guards or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was weird as well. Like, they just landed. Just crash landed. There's a ship. Off you go. And then the guards were like, "Yeah, off you go. Take the ship."
Yeah, they just landed in the middle of like nowhere.
If you hadn't mucked about, you could have all just quickly got on the ship and shot off.
Yeah.
But you're all standing around waiting for the clone troopers to tell you what to do, and I was a bit like, I don't know if this. The thing is, overall, I don't think it was too bad. But once again, you go back to am I basing it on because this is an episode based on the previous 3 episodes, so I'm going to be a lot more forgiving because I did actually generally enjoy it, or do I take the more overall approach and go, well, actually, once again, it wasn't a very strong episode in the whole series, and I'm like, maybe I'm being too forgiving because I'm just like, ooh, this is actually slightly decent.
Well, I think when I look at it, I look at it with yeah. When I look at it, I think I look at it in 2 ways, right? So, as a fan of the show, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was good, it was cool, and it had some good bits. When I'm looking at it more critically, some of it starts to fall down. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the episode. It was still an enjoyable episode. No. It was still good. But when you look at it, like you critique some of the bits, some of them don't stack up, and they're easy fixes. No. These are not like fundamental problems with the show. They're easy enough fixes. It just seems like it felt like they had a few cool ideas of things they wanted to do with the Mandalorians, and they had this bit with Order 66, the Ahmed, which looked cool, but again, no one really reviewed it. I think to watch it and think this doesn't really tie up with the existing Star Wars lore, like with the ability of the Jedi and the ability of the clone troopers and how they would react. So it's another thing which is, it looks cool, but on the surface, but when you start to dig deep, it breaks down a wee bit. So, well, we get all that stuff's all great, and then we get to the final segment, which is, well, there's two bits actually. There's the armorer making more armor for Grogu, and they made this stupid giant circular plate on it, which just reminded me of Flavor Flav, like with the giant like alarm clock around his neck. It's like, also, where are they getting this endless supply of Beskar from?
Oh, remember, it was a donation. It's a donation to the foundlings.
Yeah. But from who? What? The corpses of other people? Oh.
No, from the Mandalorians, apparently. Yeah. That's how they explain that one. But no. The what was quite funny is my wife turned around and said, "Oh, great! They've given him a giant coaster." And it's like, no, it's supposed to be armor. And she was like, "It's a giant heavy coaster that they've just stuck to the front of him." He's already not moving quick enough. She was like, "Why would you weigh him down even more?"
I do think that was hilarious, and that seeing Grogu with his tiny wee legs, and when she's walking into the cave and he turns around, I get to see the look on his face, being like, "Oh, you bitch." You know, it takes me like half an hour to walk that far. It just reminds me so much of when I walk into school with my daughter, and I turn around and she's like stopped with her tiny wee legs. So I had to catch up with me. Like, oh.
I had visions. I had visions of this, like that scene when he was outside and she because you don't see Grogu after that when she wanders away. They pan to a scene where all the Mandalorians are coming out, and I just imagined that he'd just fallen flat on his face due to the weight, and they're all trampled on him like a kind of cartoon. Like he's just like lying in the sand, being trampled on as they're rushing out.
Or he's stuck in his head like a what do you call it, an ostrich, and his legs are just like kicking. Then all the Mandalorians come back, and the Armorer and Bo-Katan have a scene where they're talking about the Mythosaur. And I don't know if the Armorer is like, she knows that the Mythosaur is real, or if she's just like sort of pandering to the Bo-Katan's like, yeah, okay, love. When you walk the path of the Mandalore, you can see whatever you like. Mm-hmm. But she's like, no, I literally saw one. It's like, okay.
Nah, you be tripping, hon. You be tripping.
Okay,
love. Yes, you saw that. Yeah. You see what you want to see. This is the way.
Yeah. But at least now they've got a fleet of flying bat creatures of their own. I mean, don't tell me they're going to make them foundlings.
That was it. I turned around and went, "Oh, look at that! Typical humans destroying the natural environment, killed the mother of 3 innocent babies. They didn't ask for them to be on their planet, and they're just interfering. And then they later on in the episode, there they are, just like pulling the three babies out, and I'm like." Where are you going to keep them? I don't even know where you live. I don't know where they're going to live. Because if you leave them outside, the crocodile's going to eat them. Because the crocodile's already tasted blood and probably wants more.
By the way, her ship, when you look at it in episode 2, is like the cockpit and a few chairs. And then a clown car of Mandalorians come out, and then 3 massive dinosaur birds get pulled out. Like, where were they sat?
Just like an overhead locker somewhere, they just push them in.
Under the tray table provided underneath your chair, like kicked underneath. I'm going to have to store that bird, sorry. Yeah, it looked cool, but again I thought, that's mental. Where have those birds been?
But the question that I'm left with at the end of this episode is still, what's going on? And I don't mean that as in, like, I haven't understood what's happened in the past. Apart from, I would say, the last episode, I still don't quite know how that fits in with anything yet. You know, maybe I'm jumping the gun here and it's going to be all revealed. But I am still kind of going, that was a cool episode. It was kind of back to space Wild West, almost, you know. The band of cowboys go out and rescue the kid that's fallen down the well. But yeah, the episode ended, and I'm like, but what are we doing? Like, what are they doing next? Are we just going to join the next episode, and they're going to be like, somebody's ruined our barbecue that we're having outside, and we're going to go attack them now? Like, what's the main plot?
I still don't get it, but one of the things I forgot to mention, like I think we touched on it earlier, like, Bo-Katan obviously doesn't know about the Mandalorian. Like, how do you go to sleep at night?
Culture.
And how do you eat with other people? Yeah. And she says, the guy goes, well, we all split up. And I thought, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Now, basically, if you want to kill a group of Mandalorians, wait for them to have dinner, and then just pick them off one at a time when they're all separated.
And the thing is, are they going to make the Mandalorian and Bo-Katan an item so we can finally answer the one question that we've all been thinking with Mandalorians and their helmets? And you know what I'm talking about. Like, how do they make foundlings? Like, that must be really awkward.
I mean, it'd be weird to see like this complete. It's like two people completely naked except for these random helmets. I also noticed that when she took her helmet off, she didn't have helmet hair. Her hair was perfect.
And this is a thing. This is a kind of thing my wife picks up, especially with you know, and you've hit the nail on the head with this episode. She was like, she's not been wearing a helmet. Her hair would not come out like that. And it's typical fantasy thing when lassies have like really long hair and they're doing all these massive fight scenes. The first thing she's like, they wouldn't have their hair like that. They would have it tied out the way. They wouldn't be wearing stupid skirts and stuff like that. They'd be wearing trousers. Yep. You know, they wouldn't be wearing baggy tops and stuff like that. They'd be, you know, practical. I hate that in fantasy. It sets my wife off. It really does. And yeah, she was like, she was watching that, and then she was like, "Nah, she's not been wearing that helmet. Her hair would not come out like that."
I mean, even I thought that.
That's just not possible. Yeah.
So, final thoughts on this episode and any predictions you see for going forward?
Final thought is, give me major story arc now. I can't get invested in it until you give me the main story. Even if it's something as daft as, we've got to go find a magic egg. You know, just give me something, and then I can enjoy the little... Because the problem is I can't enjoy the little plots, the little subplots, because I don't know if they are subplots or the main plots. I think, though, going forward, Bo-Katan is here to stay. And I'm cool with that. I'm not some weird incel, women and this, women that. No, I'm all up for it. As we said earlier, she's, a big character in the universe. But just let me know, please. And then I know to direct my attention to following her story.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know how many episodes are planned for this season, but so far, I think there was a bait and switch with the first episode where it seemed like the whole point of the season was going to be the Mandalorian's quest to be redeemed, but that was over and done within 2 episodes. And again, it sort of hinted that the Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian would end up with some kind of rivalry because she wants the Darksaber, but there's just no hint of that at all in the last few episodes. Nope. They're very much in partnership. So there's not even subtle drops or hints to that.
Nope.
So yeah, I have no idea what the main thrust or the main quest for this season is, and we must be nearly. I mean, these seasons are only 10 episodes long occasionally. So even if we're on episode 4, so we're going to be at least a third of the way through at best, if not nearly half. And I have nothing to root for really. But yeah, I still enjoyed this episode more than I've enjoyed the other ones.
It looks like there's 8 episodes.
8, so we're now 50% of the way through. And so far, I know nothing about why we're here.
I just want... just to answer a question, right? Just to answer a question. What did you call the monster that was in the water? That ate the shriek cork?
What, the turtle crocodile or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's officially what it's called.
The turtle crocodile.
Sorry, no, dinosaur turtle.
Dinosaur turtle, yeah.
Because I've gone on the wiki page here to check how many episodes, and I just caught the term dinosaur turtle, and when I read that, I was like, nah, nobody knows what that's called, do they? And somebody's just gone with dinosaur turtle, just put it on the wiki, and nobody's updated it yet.
But I think if we continue along this path and it's more Mandalorian focused, I will be happy at the end of it. I may not be satisfied because if there's no, plot or villain to overcome, but I will be satisfied nonetheless. And if it does end up like that, I think that will be the end of the Mandalorian. It'll be the end of this. It'll be done. There'll be nowhere for it to go because you need something to look at. But yeah. So I think. What do you think, Grogu? You like it? Oh no, he's quite hard to please. But well, we'll see what happens next week then. Hopefully, a little bit longer episode. I hope next week because that was quite short. So maybe in the 45 to 40 minutes range is a good length of time for the Mandalorian. So we shall have to wait until next week to see. But until then,
that's it.
Thanks for watching.